Well, hello there. What happens when you take an expert's knowledge and turns it into inside out? Well, you get this. Welcome to Inside Out. I am Arnavja, joined by Anushka Chatterjee, and today we are obliged to host our guest, Mr. Ashutosh Tiwari.
Welcome, sir. We feel very happy to see you today, and thanks for joining us for this podcast. And I would also like to wish you a very happy Engineers Day. Let's start with your introduction. So, please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Sure. Myself, Ashutosh Tiwari. At present, I work for CME Group. It's an organization which does trading, options, and futures, particularly. And my team that focuses on the platform engineering side of it. So the new conventions that we use for the integrations and deployment, right? The DevOps thing, CI/CD, is what my team does. And along with that, there's the team that I lead is called Developers Utilities, and the main focus of my team in here is to um, build softwares or tools which can help development teams across CME to expedite their development environment, right? So that's kind of like the motivation and the goal for my team is, and with the newer technologies that is in the market right now, AI, artificial intelligence, and internal developer portals, all those things are led by my team. So that's what I'm focusing right now. In the past, like I've been in the data teams, plus like AWS, and different sort of like clouds as such. So that's a brief intro about me.
Well, that's a great points to have while talking to someone. So, sir, let's just start from the very beginning, from where the professional life actually begins for many of us. What were some things you were very passionate about in college, like from academics to non-academic part?
Yeah. So I kind of like grew up in Bilaspur, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. And my college was also in Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. I passed out from Guru Ghansdas University, and I did my bachelor's in engineering from there. And mostly, like when I joined there, things were not much available in there, right? Internet was new, kind of like in our area. So I still remember, going um, uh, 10 kilometers just to get internet, right? So that's the kind of thing we were in. And then um, from the passion point of view, like once I decided that I'll pursue computer science and engineering for my bachelor's, um, mostly my focus was programming. And that time, Java was predominantly being used, and then there were very few teachers which can teach you C++ and C in our area, right? So that's something that I started with, and I was like very, very passionate about programming. So I still remember, going very early just to get hold of the computers, and get started with. So that was my passion, and that helped me a lot to get a job and being good at it. Um, yeah, and then from the non-academic point of view, cricket was my favorite, right? Like growing up, I was always looking opportunities to play for my village, for my kind of like district school as such. So that was something that I was like really passionate about. Um, and yeah, I think those were the items that uh, actually I was passionate about.
So, during your college days, where technology was so different from now, how do you keep yourself constantly updated with it?
Yeah, I think like a lot of these things comes from the job. And then I like to study whenever there's an opportunity to about different technologies as such, so newer things comes up, and as things mature, even the organization that you're working with, I constantly look for opportunities where I can contribute and learn as well. So that was the kind of thing that I kept doing. Um, and that helped me a lot. So finding the right team that actually is doing something that you are passionate about, and then improving from that point onwards, right? So you have to keep yourself constantly up to date with the technologies, and then um, you'll have to see things that you're working on, how you can improve using the newer technologies which is coming up in the market, right? So that helped me a lot, and seeing different companies, and then I work with some of really good companies. They were always constantly looking to improve things for their customers, and it's always good to see from customers' point of view. And your customers are our customers are the trading partners that we have, and if we want to make their life easier, or from their experience we want to improve their experience, then in that case definitely you have to improve things that you're working on. So that was the motivation, I would say. And um, ultimately, when we look for those technologies, um, we find AI or big data in the during older times. Those were the technologies which were very, very crucial. So that's how you will find tools which you can integrate with your data that you have. Plus, you will see how you with using that data you can improve the experience of your customers, and start connecting the dots. Once you start connecting the dots, you will see how with the newer technologies that is coming up in the market, you can utilize those technologies and then build those uh, build those softwares, and then you can keep yourself up to date as well. So that's how actually things work in the industry.
Yeah, that's a quite greatly point is that constantly evolution is a great thing to thrive in such scenarios. So, like your career involved from software engineers while you were working technologies like Ruby on Rails, now to being a director of platform engineering at CME Group. Could you walk us through the key turning points in your journey till now?
Sure. Um, so I started I was always about passionate about programming languages, and I started with Java as my first language. Then there was an opportunity to work on Ruby on Rails, and Ruby on Rails was very, very new in the market. So I got opportunity to work, and that led me get to another kind of company which was building even more scalable software, as well as very customer focused software for their uh, for their customers. So um, I started helping them out, and then from that point onwards, there were newer technologies that was coming in the market. iPhone was new. So um, once I was well versed with the web development side of the world, using Ruby on Rails, and .NET was very, very new. Then I started looking into the mobile side of the world, so Android and iPhone application development, Objective-C, kind of languages I started working with. That helped me a lot, to get to know different technologies. So if you are looking from engineering point of view, at present, say the JavaScript market is very, very hard, but things will evolve, right? So you have to constantly keep yourself up to date, um, and then you start building the trust for within your company and outside your company with your customer, and that helps you to grow your um, your expertise, as well as your kind of involvement with other teams as well. And once they start knowing you, they actually can bring more things on your plate that you can actually work upon, and then your area of expertise also increases, and your influence area of influence also increases, right? So that's how my journey started. And then at one point of time I had like very large team, and then I started managing those teams because you know the product in and out. At the same time, like you see like opportunities which you can improve on the product. So industry will start giving you more people, or like the companies that you're working with will start giving you more people, because they see potential in you, and then potential in the software that you want to build. So that's how I started like getting into the management side of the world. So and then like you will start seeing bigger picture from the organization point of view as well, because you're in like the company will continue to have like more features for their customers. At the same time, you'll have um you know um features for your customers, but at the same time, like you will start attracting like more customers as such, right? So they will scale, so you will also scale. So that's how I kind of like started like managing multiple teams. And then slowly, like at one point of time, like I had like 6 or 7 teams as such, and that got me focused on the bigger picture that some of the companies that I was working with. And then at one point of time, like I also felt that like since I am managing, I am like lacking in terms of the technology side of the world, which was my passion, as I mentioned, right, during my college days. So then I thought like, okay, let me spend some time in technology, like that's gonna help me um in providing like better experience for my customers, because I would know like what's happening in the technology side of the world as well. And then I can again like connect dots from the management side and from the technology side, both all together, right? So I joined like few companies which were like very technology focused. And then um I joined CME, and CME is like a very nice company to be in. And here, as you can imagine, like any platform engineering team is always horizontal, right? You will have like vertical teams which will be using features that you're developing. So my team is horizontal. So our area of influence, or like our area of work, is across all the um, organization. So whatever the software that we build, we have to keep in mind that it should work across all the application teams which are involved, or which are working with us. So um, that is how like I kind of like see my journey to the director of platform engineering team in CME.
Okay, so nice to hear that. So you have also worked both internationally and in India. Can you point out few cultural differences or any professional perspective you would want to share? The
Yeah,
difference between
yeah,
both.
yeah. Yeah. So the India that I worked compared to the India which is now is totally different, I would say. Um, when I was working in India, like uh, things were like mostly outsourced sort of thing. Like you will get to work on things which say companies in US are gonna give it to you. So you will always be like things were like always um kind of like they are the people in US, or the onshore team was providing like what has to be done um in India. And when I saw that, then I thought like if I want to be in a space where I myself influence the things that is being built, then I have to be in US. That was the only option that I had. Um, so then that's when I decided, okay, let me go to US. And my journey to US, like when I came in here first, I couldn't um like help out myself in getting friends. And like in India, like you'll have like multiple friends. So that culture was like totally different. So I went back to India after 6 months, and then I spent time in India. Then again, I suddenly realized like, things are not going um, as I want it to be. I started looking for opportunities in US, and then finally I found one other opportunity in US, and I came here. Uh, the difference that I see now is there is like a lot of entrepreneurship that is going on in the India right now, and things have changed a lot. Lot of companies which are like very nice companies to work with, are coming up from India. A lot of entrepreneurs like you folks down the road would be entrepreneurs. Um, are happening in India. So things have changed now. Like, I from the culture point of view, it's very, very similar, like what is there in India versus like what is there in US. So not much of a difference as such now. But at those time, like when I was growing up, there was definitely a difference. So yeah,
Well, that's rightly said in India that a friendship can be struck in just a cup of tea. Yeah, you can just have a chat with anyone here at a tea stall. So, while you were working in India and then you gone abroad, so there are always some communication style difference between those two nations. So it might would happen that during communicating something to someone, it would have been misinterpreted. So how do you navigate through such problems, or and also if it would have happened, like what you did at that time?
yeah. I think like, so culturally, like, both the countries are very, very different. But the good thing that happened in the last decade or so, or like, 2 decades, is basically like a lot of people came from um, India to US. So you'll always have a mix of people. Like, there will be Indian community, and then like, you'll be working very closely with the US counterparts and like, US people as well. So culturally, there could be differences, but like you'll always have like, friendship both side of the world. So you'll always learn and adapt. Like, you'll see like how things work, what sort of like jokes that you can have with your colleagues. So um, it was the learning side, but at the same time, like you'll always have like a backup from the Indian people like who have already been here and they have spent time. They actually guided me a lot, like just like um by making like once if they are they're also along the side with me, like during those conversations, they were always like pointing me, like, this is how things work, this is how you can communicate, this is how you can convey your message. That's the first part of it. And then, like, you always need to be um, kind of like, fearless in the communication that you are having. That's very, very important, right? Things go wrong when you are afraid of saying something. And actually, like, that's one of my learning that I had, that if you don't communicate, even if you are wrong, like even if you have something that in your mind and you are not communicating to people, that's actually wrong. Like rather than like, not um like rather than saying like something, if you are stopping yourself, that is actually wrong. So you should always say what's going on in your mind and like say the thing, like even if it is interpreted bad, like that's a learning for all of us. We can try to mitigate it like next time, but you should always try and aim for making sure that the message that you had in your mind, like when or like the message that you want to convey, always goes to the person that you're communicating, right? So that's very, very important. And you'll make mistake, but don't be afraid of it. um, just give it a try anyway.
Okay, sir. Let's come to your leadership role. You have been responsible for creating technologies, roadmaps, and having data strategies. How do you effectively communicate a complex technical situation to a bunch of stakeholders? Like, um, what do you include in that? As you just
Yeah,
said, we should not hold ourselves back with ideas.
absolutely, like very, very important. So I think you should always think from the person who you are communicating to. So if you know that person, like how, like if you're working with some of the leadership teams, then the message or like the way that you want to give information about should be very simple, right? Like because like technology, they don't want to get into the technology, or like there will be like leaders that want to go deep in the technology, but like most of the time, like you wouldn't need to go deep into the technology. You'll always talk about like what is the value that you are bringing in, right? Like that's what they would be focusing on. On the other hand, like if you're working with the development team, they want to go into the details. So they will like to see like different part of the software, like how they actually communicate or they actually work, what are the things involved, the high level, low level design that we talked, right? Like they want to go into the low level design. So based on the audience, like you have to navigate your communication or like the message that you want to give. One of the thing that is always helpful is like visual diagram or like visual representation of what you're communicating to. And then like presentation, like you will have to see like if you are working with the leadership team, then you probably would like to have like a PowerPoint slides as such, and like your visual diagram on what you're saying. But if you're working with the technology team, then you rather have a working software like or a MVP. Like right now with the evolution of AI, things are like much more easier, and you can build like your MVP topic sort of like softwares very cheaply, and like very in a very short time. So you can do that. Um, so based on like based on the people that you want to give the message to, you should decide and you should pursue like that level of communication, right? Like, and then the medium would be like very similar to that. So when I work with the leadership team, it's always a presentation. But when I talk with my teams, right, there are like different softwares like draw.io, or like you can use lucid chat. Those are the software where you can uh, draw diagrams, and then like you can talk it through, and if it is achievable, then like target an MVP sort of like software, right? So I always try to do that. And then like secondly, like if it is about software, even to your leadership team, it's always good to showcase like a working software to them, right? Like so when I go with a newer ask or a newer message, like if I have a prototype that I can show to them, that's actually better. And then prototype plus the visual diagrams plus like a presentation, HR is actually like something that I try to. The other thing is like time, like how much time that you have. Like you always have to make sure that your message doesn't get lost. Um, and the main focus of the message should always be the first thing that you want to talk about, and then you go deeper into the things like that they want to see or they want to get into. So that's how I try to communicate.
That's a great insight to how to effectively communicate our thought with our teams. So, sir, this question is going to be job related. Nowadays, we are seeing quite of companies are doing layoffs during the certain economic situation and other available avenues. So, what kind of you think things a freshly graduated student should do in this market situation currently, when there's so much layoff situation and uncertainty at any point?
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable question, right? And I see like things like Gemini Code Assist or the Copilot thing. They can write software. I think we as the new graduate engineers go beyond the languages and technologies now. We have to see like how we can build a product. So our our focus should not be like how to build software or how to write software now. I think like our focus should be how to build product out of it, right? And the good thing about these technologies which are evolving, even one person, I believe now, with the right set of tool, like if you have like a right set of funding, you can run the entire organization. I'll give an example. So let's assume that you want to build a a software uh, um, which does like some sort of like marketing, let's say, right? So you will need a website, you will need like emails, and um, like you need to reach out to the SMS, like whatever your marketing mechanism would be. You you can do it like you can write your code base, and you can build your prototype using the AI tool or Copilot as such, right? And then after that, you can also build like the recommendation engine. All those things are like very cheap and very easy to build now. using the cloud platform, like, that those are available. So if you take AWS or Google, right, there are like built-in tools. You'll have to see, like, which one you can adopt, and then you can build it, like, in very short time. Then the second thing, like, you will also have to maintain that all those things are like very, very easy to do, like right now. So I think, like, building a software is very cheap and easy now. Having that mindset to take it to the customer and then evolve that product, right, like down the road, is something that we should focus on. And then there would be, like, industries where uh, like software reach is not much nowadays. We'll have to see, like, how we can make sure that they get the benefit of AI and technology revolution, which is happening in across the world right now, right? So that's how I see that. Don't focus on just the coding aspect of it or building software aspect of it. See a bigger picture, and then, like, build products which can be useful for customers is what I would recommend for the newly graduate engineers, right? So, and there are like, I regularly visit India whenever I get chance to, and I've seen, like, there are like multiple opportunities that those are available. And I think, like, you guys should solve those problems for the customers, like, be it for farmers or, like, uh, local shop owners, right? Like how AI and tools can help them in getting more sales, or, like, better, having a better um better return of investment that the farmers are doing in their side, right? Like all those things are like important, and we should pursue those things, like taking those small problem that we see around ourselves and then building product out of it is something we should strive to.
Um, Sir, you also have deep experience with big data tools and the ecosystem built around it, like Spark, Kafka. When you are designing a data platform, a new data platform, maybe, then what is your mental framework for it? Like choosing the right tool for the job. What do you usually look forward to?
Yeah, again, that's a very good question. So if like, if it depends on, like, what is the ask, like what do you want to achieve out of it, right? So let's assume that you want to build a very low latency software, right? Then the tools and technology you will choose will be totally different than compared to the batch technology that you would have, right? So you'll have to see, like, what is the latency plus the like, what is the latency that you want to give to your customer, right? And then once you know, like, that this particular uh, software is like, or this particular um, job has to be done in this much amount of time, then you can focus on that. And then the other would be, like, scalability aspect of it, right? Like how you can scale that software. Like if you have multiple people using it, then like how you can scale it further, right? So uh, those are the two areas, and based on that, like, you will choose which technologies that would be useful in your case. And Spark, like, Spark or like any sort of like big data is always good to use when you have like large amount of data, right? Like, that's another area that you have to be careful about, because like a lot of these technologies are like, very, very similar, and you will end up choosing like, if you don't focus on what you want to achieve, then you will choose something which may be like, too big for a scale of things that you are doing, right? Or like, too small for the scale of big thing that you're doing. You have to be like very, very cautious about it. That's like one framework that I focus on. Secondly, it also depends on, like, if it is an event-based system or like, a batch system, right? Like, so you will choose Kafka type of like use cases when you have like a event-based system, right? And then there are like, certain things that you have to think about. Like, if it is the Kafka, then what is the technological limitation it's coming up with, right? Like So you have to be aware of those. So I would say, like, the good framework would be like, what is the like, what is the problem that you want to solve for? Secondly, you'll have to see the limitation of the tools or software that you are picking to solve that problem. And if you focus on those two areas, like, this is the problem that I want to solve, and like these are the limitations that I can have, and be very well aware of it, you will do the right thing in developing those software, right? So that's the mental framework that I kind of like adopt. And like, there were like I worked with some of the credit card companies, and they were like very, very low latency type like of software, right? Like that we were building. That's where the event-based system was also working. The good thing about, like, Kafka or like Spark or any of those technologies is, like, that Spark is kind of like mini batch, right? So you can do like mini sort of like batches. Um, and then if you want to do like a real-time sort of like system, if you want to build a real-time sort of system, then Flink is what you can use, right? And then from the streaming point of view, like there is a Kafka, there is a Pulsar, there are like different options. So just like know the limitations of those softwares and then like build software accordingly, right? That's how I kind of like see the big data world right now. And then the other thing that you have right now which is like very, very handy, is the cloud. Cloud can get you started like very, very fast. Instead of building your own data centers, or like, you have to build your own hardwares, I think like cloud can expedite your journey a lot. So even in cloud also, like, if you take AWS, they're like Apache Glue, AWS Glue, and then there are like, Kinesis and software around it. So know the limitation, and then build based on what your customer ask is, right? Like that's how you should map it.
Yeah. So basically, if you have to sum it up, it's just like first know the problem and then choose viable steps to solve that. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So based upon your work with MLOps and machine learning platform and how it is being used nowadays, where do you find the biggest opportunities and also the challenges next upcoming years for the companies who are going to leverage it?
Yeah, I think like it's it's a constantly like since the time like I started with a company which was like very which had like very bare minimum penetration in terms of like ML apps, but things have evolved, and so is like, the software industry as well. Even the customer ask, um, and it's gonna be like evolving field, like, down the road as well. So the way it started was like, you will be building, you'll spend um like, months building um the model that you'll be using. Like take case of like fraud detection, right? Like you'll use like, you'll use the industry data plus like your organizational data, right? Like you will build a software on a model, and then like you will try to productionize this, and then you had to think about how you will uh, constantly monitor the bias, like how will you will upgrade the model. All those things have changed now with the evolution of like how companies are providing like cloud platform teams are like providing or building software. With the evolution of Bedrock or like Vertex AI, or like, be it Gemini side of the world, right? Things have changed a lot. Now, like all those models are like, you don't have to train on anything. All those models like are, be it recommendation engine, um, be it like, a fraud detection model, are like available in the market, and you can fine tune on top of it, right? So that's something which is happening, which is changing in the industry. But on top of it, like, the AI is also helping a lot. And then um, what's going to be like really important is how you would um, test out those like rapidly changing model, right? Like that's one thing, but one area where things will evolve much more further. Secondly, I think like, the governance piece aspect of it, right? Like how your model is, whether your model is giving the right responses or not. Be let's take an example of like, large language model, right? Any of Gemini or Cloud or anything, right? Like anything that if you're using a large language model, then your governance would be like totally different than like, your inbuilt model, right? So you'll have to see like what actually works from the governance perspective. So just like I'll tell you like, one of the experience that I had, like when we were working with Google on the Gemini code assist model, we had to ensure um, that it's not giving a licensed like let's say like if I'm asking some question to it, then it should not give like um Apache licensed answers like to during that point. So ensuring that piece, like we had to work with Google. All those things are like data protection side of the world, right? Like you need to ensure that copyright, data protection, all those things are like very, very critical when you work with them. So those are the areas that would be like a big challenge down the road. Um, and then like how you constantly monitor and do not utilize, like if something of that sort is coming, is something that is going to happen like in future. um I think like those were the things which is going to evolve. Plus I would also say the other technologies like quantum or uh, blockchain, right? Those will also evolve, because if you see from the data protection point of view, blockchain is going to help a lot. Why? Because like it's a distributed ledger sort of like solution. So if you want to protect your data and ensure that it's not being used for any sort of like large language model training as such, um, then you can protect it. You'll also have like better privacy from the data point of view. So blockchain, I believe like is going to be like one of the thing which is going to be like evolving even further. Secondly, I think like quantum, because now like you need like large data processing, right? So things like quantum computing is going to help in building those large language model like pretty fast, and then that's something that's going to evolve as well. So those are the two key areas which will evolve. Plus governance of the model are the key areas that is going to be focused in the next 5 to 10 years, is what I believe.
So we are also trying to incorporate blockchain with AI in our technical society as well. I would also like to ask, what are the topmost ethical considerations we should uh, keep in mind while discussing AI in finance?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, right? So your customer data should always be private, right? Like, you when you work with them, there's like a lot of privacy laws in case of like financial world as well as in case of like healthcare industry, right? So making sure that uh, none of your customer data is being used for training, right? That's one of it, right? And then like the response that you are getting, it's like sometimes the model could be like very, very judgmental, and it can give like based on the data that it is trained to, it can give responses accordingly. So eliminating those kind of like biases on the model, right, is very, very important, right? So I think those are the key areas that you should focus on. And then from the finance side of the world, right, like like let's assume that you'll have data for your customers from credit card perspective, or like you will have trading data, right? Like only like I would say like ethically, like all the data which is public data, those are the data that should be used for training. Anything which is like private data, we should have like a better guardrail across the industry and across the organization to ensure that those are not being used for training. And then like making sure that even with the public data that you have, there could be like bias on that data as such, like eliminating those would be like really important. You don't want to give like there's like already so much bias in the world right now. People see like um, people see people from their group differently compared to like other groups that uh, so there's like a lot of hatred as such. Like we don't want to like even model to um, do any of those discrimination. So it's very, very important to ensure that like those kind of like things are taken care of while developing the model, and then the responses that you are using, right? You should have enough guardrails to ensure that none of those gets into the hands of your customers, right? So that's how I see it.
Yeah, so just like human are inherently sometimes biased, we have also accidentally made the artificial intelligence or the models a kind of algorithmically biased towards something or other. That's a very great point to say that data privacy and algorithm bias both are one of the most important thing to to be talked about. So, moving forward, looking ahead, what are the most excited thing about in your field, and what's the next thing you are keeping eye on?
Yeah, I think like, so mostly like, things around AI is like very, very exciting for us, like as an industry where things uh, things are still like, things are constantly evolving. With less, how you can do more is something that I'm excited about. So be it like, uh, like my team, as I mentioned in the beginning, right? My team focuses on the developers utilities. So we build software to expedite, uh, like software development, or like so putting AI across the SDLC lifecycle is something that I am like presently excited about, because that's something that I'm working on right now. Beyond this, like I think like how AI can help in customer support or like different areas, right? Like we'll have to see like how things evolve. One of the problem statement, like a challenge that we have, is the information that you get out of the large language model is non-deterministic, right? Like you'll always see, if you use the same prompt, like one time, um, and then like you'll get one response, and then like if you use it second time, you'll get like a different response, right? So how you ensure that, how you can build, like how you can get some sort of like deterministic output from the large language model if you're using, is something that I'm focusing on right now. Um, so yeah, I think like every fields that or like every step of the software development can be can get help from AI, is something that I'm focusing right now. And then apart from that, I guess like there are like customer problems that we have, like retrieving this information, like XYZ information for the customer, making it easy for the customers, right? Or like without even a software knowledge, how people can get the information that they need, right? Like be it like SQL query, right? So getting into the hands of customers is right now my focus point. So that's what I'm focusing right now.
So we have asked you all of the questions we needed to ask, and thank you so much for answering them. And Anu, you have to say something.
Uh, well, I guess we have run out the question. Uh, but I just want to have like I am a bit curious about this one thing, like how to implement AI and cybersecurity together. Because while we're talking about AI, we are taking the data from the public sector also, and as you have stated, the thing if you are taking it from like private, it should be well properly guardrailed. So, how you think that AI and cybersecurity can be integrated together in a way that it doesn't kind of destroy the inherent characteristic of either thing, like the AI thing that it should not be bothered by the cybersecurity terms, and the cybersecurity should not be get bothered by norms of artificial intelligence.
Got it. Yeah, I think like so usually like any sort of like industry would have two two teams. I would say like two teams, like two different teams. They'll be part of the same industry. One is called like global information system or global information team, security team. They will be focusing on um, they'll be focusing on the security of the organization that you'll be working with, especially in finance and healthcare industry, right? And then they will be responsible for the cyber security, um, and they're like things which are being done in that industry, so they keep up with the changes which is happening in the cybersecurity side of the world, right? And then like there would be a software development team which want to like build software as easy as that they can, and like get into the hands of customers. So there is always this constant I would say like uh, good sort of like good battle, like between those two
Kind
teams,
of
right?
tug
Like
of war. One is trying to make it more
yeah,
sophisticated, and other is trying to make it as easy as good.
exactly, right. So, and then both teams have to be like looking for like maturing their sort, like cybersecurity team should be looking for maturing their cybersecurity side of the world, and then like application team should be looking for like the faster development and like getting it like better experience for their customers. So they have to collaborate well. And I would say like the way it actually works very well for my organization, or like my in my experience, is you have to keep things transparent, right? Like you tell like this is what you're doing, and then like get their feedback, cyber security team's feedback, and then they will have their own opinion about it, and then you try to mitigate those risks, and then that's how you build your software, right? So that's one way. And then I think like even in case of the software or finance world, um there are like guardrails which you can think from the um, like cloud platform as well, right? So cloud industry has evolved a lot, and as long as your cybersecurity teams is using the right tool, right framework, um, I think things are like much more simpler compared to how it was, right? So things are evolving in both sides of the world, and they should collaborate and they should work together to solve that problem.
Thank you, sir, for answering our questions, and we are again very grateful that you spared us with your very busy time. You gave us your time. So again, a very heartfelt thanks to join us tonight, and we will surely would be looking into the things you have told to us. We would look into and try to get it incorporated in our daily life or incorporated in our professional life too. So once again, thank you, sir. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thanks for inviting, and good luck to you all. Looking forward for all your success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.